traveling to Japan had always been my dream. I had spent years watching travel vlogs, reading about the culture, and even attempting to learn the language. The neon-lit streets of Tokyo, the ancient temples of Kyoto, the untouched beauty of the countryside, it all seemed like something out of a dream. When I finally booked my trip, I planned every moment meticulously. I would spend a few days in Tokyo, absorbing the chaos and excitement of the city, then take the bullet train to Kyoto for a more peaceful, traditional experience. It was supposed to be the perfect balance of adventure and tranquility. But what I didn't plan for was how one mistake would change everything. The moment I landed at Narita Airport, I was overwhelmed in the best way possible. Japan was exactly how I imagined, organized yet full of life, modern yet deeply rooted in tradition. Tokyo was a sensory overload, but I loved every second of it. I explored Shibuya's busy streets, marveled at the futuristic wonders of Akihabara, and even braved a bowl of fugu, the infamous poisonous pufferfish, at a small family-run restaurant in Shinjuku. Everything was going according to plan. Until it wasn't. On the morning of my departure to Kyoto, I arrived at Tokyo Station, excited for my first ride on the legendary Shinkansen. The station was massive, a maze of platforms and signs, and despite my careful planning, I felt a small wave of panic as I tried to find my train. I quickly glanced at my ticket, checked the departure board, and rushed to the platform, boarding just in time before the doors slid shut. As the train sped through the Japanese countryside, I felt at ease, watching the landscape blur past, endless green fields, towering mountains, and tiny villages nestled in between. But about an hour in, something felt off. The train wasn't making the stops I had noted down. Kyoto should have been next, but instead, we kept going, and going. Panicked, I checked my ticket again. My stomach dropped. I had boarded the wrong train. Not just any wrong train, but a train heading in the opposite direction, toward a remote region of Japan I had never even heard of. And the worst part? It wasn't stopping for another hour. My mind raced. I had no Wi-Fi, my phone battery was at 7%, and I had no idea where I was going. I asked a nearby passenger in broken Japanese if this train stopped in Kyoto. He gave me a sympathetic smile and shook his head. I was officially lost. When the train finally made a stop, I had no choice but to get off. I stepped onto an almost deserted platform in a town I didn't recognize. No skyscrapers, no bustling crowds, just traditional wooden buildings, misty mountains, and a river that cut through the landscape like something out of a painting. It was beautiful but eerily quiet. I wandered the narrow streets, hoping to find a taxi or at least someone who spoke English. The town looked like it had been untouched by time. There were no convenience stores, no modern signs, just small family-run businesses, a handful of locals walking around, and a strange sense of stillness in the air. Then, to make things worse, my phone died. No maps, no Google Translate, no way to contact anyone. Just as I was considering whether I should sleep on a bench, I saw a small ryokan, traditional inn, tucked between two cherry blossom trees. Its wooden signboard swayed gently in the breeze, and soft lanterns illuminated the entrance. With no other options, I stepped inside. An elderly woman greeted me with a warm smile. She spoke no English, and I barely spoke any Japanese, but through hand gestures and broken phrases, I managed to explain my situation. Instead of turning me away, she nodded, poured me a cup of tea, and without asking for payment, showed me to a small tatami room. I was exhausted, but I couldn't sleep. The town felt strange, too quiet, too untouched. It was as if I had stepped into a different era. Then I heard it. A faint sound of drums echoing through the town. Curious, I stepped outside. The streets that had been empty just hours ago were now alive with color and music. Lanterns floated in the air, illuminating people dressed in beautiful yukatas, laughing and dancing. Small food stalls lined the streets, selling everything from sweet taiyaki to sizzling yakitori. As I wandered through the festival, mesmerized, I bumped into someone, literally. He was around my age, dressed casually but with an old-world charm. He looked at me, surprised, then laughed. "Are you lost?" he asked in fluent English. Relief flooded through me. His name was Hiro, an artist who had grown up in the town but spent years abroad. He explained that the festival was an ancient tradition, held only once every few years. The town rarely had visitors, so my presence was unusual. As we walked through the streets, Hiro led me to a small temple on a hill. Inside, he pointed to a faded painting on the wall. It depicted a foreign traveler who had once arrived in the town by mistake, much like me. "She never left," Hiro said with a smirk. I laughed, but something about the way he said it sent a chill down my spine. That night, as I lay in my room at the ryokan, I couldn't shake the feeling that I had been meant to come here. The painting, the festival, the way the elderly innkeeper had looked at me as if she knew me, it was all too strange to be a coincidence. The next morning, Hiro helped me find the right train back to Kyoto. As I was leaving, the elderly innkeeper handed me a small omamori, Japanese charm, and whispered, "For luck. You will return?" As the train pulled away, I found myself looking back at the town. A part of me didn't want to leave. And maybe, just maybe, she was right. Because sometimes, the best journeys are the ones we never plan. And sometimes, the places we find by accident are the ones that call us back.